Welcome to another vintage fishing reel service video. In this episode we have kind of a unique Zebco 66. And it's unique because it's the first year and the only year, first year the Zebco 66 was made, and the only year where it looked like this, where it was silver. And that was 1958. So this is a 1958 Zebco 66, and it looks a lot like the ones that would come afterwards. This would be what they would look like thereafter, black with these grooves, silver grooves in there. So exterior wise, this is sort of a matte, kind of a rough cast matte finish. This is more of a smooth casting. I don't know, maybe this is cast iron and this is a different kind of metal. I don't know. But everything else, so far as I can see, rivets and handle and everything else looks very similar. Now, this one, obviously I don't know what's going on here. In fact, I highly doubt if all of that is. I don't know. But there's a spring in there and a washer and whatever this thing is. Doesn't look anything like the next year. And I'm wondering if all that is just somebody's hack job. If I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've been in one of these. I've never been in the 1958 version, but seems like I recall it. Sometimes the spools can get kind of corroded in there. It can be really hard to get off. So we'll see. By the way, I made a post on the channel about changing the channel name. I don't know if everyone saw that, but the name has changed from Fishing Things to Yesterday's Fishing. So when I first started the channel, I didn't realize you could make multiple channels basically on the same account, and I thought I would have other stuff other than just vintage fishing on the channel, because I do restore antique tractors and all kinds of other stuff. And just the way things turned out, I do more with the fishing stuff, and decided to make that exclusive to the channel. Now it's called Yesterday's Fishing. So same kind of content, but exclusively vintage fishing type stuff. So here's the drag. I've turned that as low as I can go. There's this little clip here that goes into a hole on the caps, and so far as I know, the best way to loosen that up is to kind of get up underneath it, and you got to get it up out of that tab out of the hole, and turn the it's really crusty in there. So that's how you get the covers off. So there's a little hole there, and then this clip has a tab on there and it fits in that hole. So you just kind of got to lift that up and unscrew. So this one, I'm just kind of curious here. Let's open up the, while we have it here, just rather than just turning it, just once you get that clip off there, it just pops straight off. It doesn't twist in any way. But I am noticing, and I don't know the nuances of year-to-year changes in these. There's a lot more information about things like the 33, but looks like these both have feather touch. You see that little spring right there? I think that's a feather touch feature, so that, after you cast, you can kind of push that a little bit and kind of slow the thing down. That one seems to, yeah. So when you push the button, your pickup pin goes in, and then that kind of rests back where it was, but during the cast, while it's still out there, you can still push this button down and kind of slow that line down. The other thing I noticed different about this black 66, well, wait a minute, no, it does have the same type of pickup pin, but yeah, it still has a regular round pickup pin like that. So looks like they're pretty much the same there with regard to the spinner head. All right, so I'm guessing that it's like the 33 where you just hold on to the handle and counterclockwise turn to get the spinner head off. There's a spring in there. There's a little groove in there and a spring. I assume that's standard. And there's your feather touch and your pickup pin. Now, let's see. The spool came off real easy on that one. Not much line on it. Let's get that nasty line off of there. There. And by the way, these were called the Scottee. I think it was Scottee for whatever reason. All right. Now we can take off the rear cover. And again, this just pulls straight off. I think there's a little slot there that I can get a screwdriver into and help back that off. And there's that. Really dry in there. Not much grease at all in there, and then whatever it is dry. Now let's see here. I see a little piece of, looks like a piece of metal in there. I hope that's not a broken gear tooth. Sure looks like a gear tooth. We'll have to wait and see. Again, I'm going to want to consult this one and just to see. Okay, yeah, it's the same as the black 66 so far. Pretty much the same. I don't see any. This is a little different. This doesn't have a head on it, on that pinion gear shaft. This one does. It's got a little head on there, so. And I'm not sure how you get this thing out of there, because it's not going to want to get past the main gear. A lot of times there's like a flat edge on one of those to get you by that, but not on this one. Oh, okay. Well, I just kind of shoved that down and got, I don't know what I did, but let's just see here. What did I do to get that out of there? I had this, shoved that spring way down. Yeah, I pressed that, took that washer and pressed it way down. Oh, I guess I just held it down and then pulled out the whole shaft. Then you can pull out the whole shaft. So if you just press that, just hold on to that washer and spring and just pull the whole shaft through it. That'll get it out of there. And so then you've got your pinion gear and so on. There's no teeth broken on that. So where this little metal piece came from, I don't know yet. And I don't see any broken teeth on the main gear. So that's good news. I don't know where that piece came from. Just a little piece of metal. Now, whatever this contraption is, I got to get that off of there. And I don't mind going caveman on this because I'm going to end up getting a correct handle nut for this and get this monstrosity off of here. I don't even know what that is. I have to look at the catalog, make sure that ain't factory, but I have a feeling it's not. And then out comes the main gear. And what do we got to do? Might have to move this bait clicker up. Yeah, move that bait clicker up and it'll come out of there. And there is a really tiny thin shim washer in there that you want to be mindful of. None there, none there. And I think that's all there is to disassembly. We're going to want to get some WD-40 into that drag screw and work that up and down and get those threads because it's moving really tightly. So we want to get some WD in there and get all those threads good and cleaned up on the drag. But that's essentially all there is to tear down. So now I'm going off to the sink and I'm going to hit this with WD-40, especially in the threads of that drag, through the journals there and there with cotton swab, and scrub with a toothbrush, and also do a final rinse in Dawn dishwashing soap and the toothbrush to get off all the residues. And once that's done, I'll be back just like that. All right, let's get all these parts pulled out of here. And I noticed when I was cleaning this, you see how that paint's rubbed off there? I think this was on one of them really old rods at one time. Those kinds that have the cork handle, and rather than clamping down, they had the little aluminum rings that would just slide up and hold that on just via tension. I think that's scar marks from one of those. So at any rate, we can start by greasing the main gear and getting that installed. So we're just gonna pack the teeth of the main gear and clean up any excess. And we can put some grease on the anti-reverse gear and some oil on the main gear shaft and slink that back down into place. And that moves much nicer than it was before. I'm going to go see if I have the proper, I'm going to get rid of this mess and see if I have a proper nut to put back on there. Hang on. There, I think that's the correct nut. As you collect reels or acquire reels, if you're out shopping around for old stuff, if you see one that's incomplete and not apparently salvageable, go ahead and buy those, because you never know when you're going to need parts. And that's where I found this one, on a parts reel, an old 600 that was missing the rear cover and the lock screw, the cap lock screw, and so on. Now these were really tight, And this one cleaned up really nice with WD-40, just working it in, rinsing it through. This one's still a little tight, but a lot better. But now that looks the way it's supposed to look. Now we can grease the pinion gear. This is really a simple reel to, once you figure, what to expect in terms of how to get the covers off and this and that. Pretty simple to service, but not uncomplicated in terms of its functions. I mean, you've got your feather touch, you've got different settings for drag, clicker, anti-reverse, etc., all operated by one lever. You've got a drag system that works on the inside of the spool by putting pressure on this little outward pressure on this little tab around the inside of the spool. So really high quality, nice reels. Very reminiscent of a 33 and an early 33 in quality and function. All right, now we want to get some oil on our pinion gear shaft, and I want to just push that spring and get that down low on the shaft, and then you can get that washer up underneath the top of the main gear, and then that's back in place like it's supposed to go. Now we can get rid of this, whatever this mess is that was used to put the handle on. Now, because this spool spins around the spindle, we need to grease. Oops, before I do that, there's some scrud on there that I want to get off of there with I want to just polish up that spindle a little bit and get that oxidation and old grease and stuff that's dried up on there off. There, now we can grease that spindle. And we really want to, I've already cleaned this fairly thoroughly with WD-40, but I want to get some oil on this drag, and I'm going to run this drag out and expose those threads, as many of those threads as I can, and get some oil on those threads and work that back in. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, that's the drag's all the way off now. When you crank that this way, it's pulling this tab out and rubbing up against the inside of your spool, and that's what provides the drag. So I'll turn that all the way off, and then we can yeah, drag clicker, it doesn't look like much there. I'm going to pull it up just a little bit. Might be a little bit sprung. Drag clicker's working. And then we can lubricate the, I'm going to put a little oil down in that hole there, and some around this pickup pin block, and work that in. And maybe a little bit around this pivot point here for the feather touch. And then we're ready to put that on there and give it a clockwise turn. I'm going to push down on this pinion gear shaft, so that sticks out a ways, and then try to get it started on there with that spring kind of fighting me. And you don't want to tighten that down real tight. What's that interesting sound? Rubbing against something, I don't know what. I don't know if the spool is rubbing up on the inside of the spinner head or what that's all about. It's like when not as bad. I don't know. I don't know what that rubbing sound is, but I don't think it's anything I can address. Everything's working. It's got a little rubbing sound. I don't know what that is. All right. Now we're ready for, well, let's get a little bit of, oh yeah, we got to oil this. This is important. Get some oil in this track that runs your anti-reverse and your bait clicker and your anti-reverse override. Get some oil down in that track and around these pivot points. And around this here, and work that in good. Boy, that's annoying. I don't know what that sound is. Well, let's get it all assembled and see what happens. All right, so let's get the rear cover back on. I guess that little hole there is for getting a screwdriver in there to kind of pry it off. So there goes the rear cover. And then the top, or the front cover, you're going to want to make sure that drain hole is facing down. I don't think that it would go on any other way because of that notch for the cover clip. Oh, come on, get on there. There. Yeah, still got that annoying click. I'm not really sure what that is. Let's get our post-1958 version back together here. There. See, that one doesn't make a sound. That one's going great. This one, it's got a rubbing sound. And I just don't know. You don't think that spring, that maybe that spring is not supposed to be in there? Huh. There's no spring in that one. Let's see if we take that spring out. Maybe that's, I don't know why somebody would put a spring in there if it wasn't supposed to be. Let's just take that spring out of there. I don't know what they were thinking, whoever decided to put that thing in there. That spring wasn't supposed to be in there. What kind of problem were they trying to solve by putting that spring in there? Make sure everything works, and you know, I just don't. Look at it work now. It's clicking, it's doing its thing. Why is that thing pushing off every time? You know what? You see these holes here in the casting? Those aren't supposed to be there. And that's where that piece of metal came from. And I'll bet you that those pieces of metal had a little tab that hole fit into like that to hold that end, and then it clipped over here. And so this one, those little tabs are missing, and so there's going to be a problem with the covers wanting to come off. Now, see, every time you push the button, that cover's wanting to come off. So I might have to finagle something in there, or put a little shim in there to keep that cover tight, so that when you push the button, see how it wants to pull back? I mean, it's not a, well, yeah, it'll come off. So I'm going to have to develop some kind of a shim in there or something. Okay, so to fix that problem with that missing tab there, you can see I just took a piece of felt, or thick, it's basically like a shop towel, paper towel, and I cut a couple of strips till I got it the right thickness where there would just be enough tension, and kind of placed it inside the body there, along the edge of the body, and then put the cap, you know, in there first, and then brought it over and snapped it here. And now it's tight enough that when you push the button, it's not, the rear cover's not wanting to come off. So that way, it's, you know, rather than trying to glue it or some other crazy thing, this is totally reversible. If you ever need to get the back cover off, just going to take a little elbow grease. You know, it's not going to be real hard. Of course, you could always get a little screwdriver in there and back that off, but just a little felt shim was all it needed. And now that back cover isn't wanting to come off when I push the button. But other than that, we've got a new nut on the handle, and we've gotten whatever this thing was in there for. Can't imagine that was supposed to be there. I mean, if we can see that everything is operating properly. The pickup pin is out. If we push the button, it goes in. The feather touch is working. We wind it, comes back out. I don't think that spring was supposed to be in there. Weird. Very weird. But that's the 1958 version, the only year they produced the 66 in the silver color without the grooves. Kind of looks a lot like a 33 in many ways. And got that all fixed up and working right, except for need to do something about shimming that, clamping and shimming that rear cover in there so that doesn't want to come off every time you push the button. But so it turned, as I said, into the black version of the 66 and 59, and ran a number of years, and then it kind of there's not a whole lot of design changes. It kind of became the 606, and that sort of became the 600. and they were all black with these grooves like this for the longest time until late 70s, early 80s. They went to the copper top. So, and then of course, this thing you got silent with anti-reverse, and then you've got silent with no anti-reverse, and then you've got no anti-reverse with a bait clicker. So you have 3 different settings here, both of these do. So that's all for now, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.